So today we've had a visit from Gareth Bowen, who is an independent demonstrator. He's come down, he's working for Roland today, and he's brought us the Jupiter 50, which is the latest keyboard. It's the sort of little brother, I suppose, of the Jupiter 80. Now, this is not going to be in the stores until June, right?
That's right.
So we're getting a bit of a preview here. So Gareth, first of all, thank you for coming down. And perhaps one question I feel compelled to ask. Obviously, there's been a bit of a fury about using the Jupiter name. Could you explain a little bit about how that's working?
Yeah, of course. The Jupiter 8 was a performance synthesizer. It had groundbreaking technology built into it. Well, I don't know if you remember, but on the Jupiter 4, you had the actual acoustic instruments, the same as it's written here, with the various different tones. Unfortunately, they didn't actually sound like the acoustic instruments they were supposed to.
No, you're dead right. I had one and they sounded nothing like acoustic instruments.
Yeah, exactly. So basically what happened with the Jupiter series back then was they became very famous for the synth sounds and nobody used the acoustic tones. But it was a groundbreaking technology. And the reason this has been given the name Jupiter is for the simple fact that now, with the behavior modeling and everything that's built into this keyboard, the acoustic tones are better than they were before. They are so perfect now, and now you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the best synth tones, you've got the best acoustic tones. It's worth the name Jupiter because it's a new technology again. I can show you with the performance sounds on board, you know, the control that you can have over the acoustic instruments, and just as a keyboard, as a performance keyboard in general.
So show me a little bit about what's going on with these different sections here.
Okay, well, the keyboard will produce up to 6 sounds at a time. You have what's called an upper live set, which will produce 4 sounds with multiple effects on them. And you also have another sound on your solo section and another sound for your lower tone. So basically, I can have 6 instruments split, layered all across the keyboard, and I can access them for performance instantly and smoothly as well. So for instance, I've got it to a piano. Bearing in mind, all of these have got an alternate sound as well, so you can set up 2 different patches. So regular piano. If I hit the alternate, you won't know it, but I've brought in a pad. And I can bring in another one with a solo. I've added strings to the top. Also got another one, so basically I'm actually running probably about 5 sounds there. I've put an LFO tone on the bottom. And as a performance keyboard, I can even mix them live, so. Give you an example, that is, anyway, but it's the fact that I've got seamless changes throughout.
Yeah, I noticed that you were able to leave the pad hanging while you change sounds on top of that. So that kind of makes sense from that angle of performance. I can see that. And we're hearing quite a lot of acoustic stuff going on there. I mean, the other thing that's of quite a lot of interest is the supernatural sounds. And it's got, if I'm right, it's got its own chip that's dedicated to interpreting how you play. And voicing those acoustic sounds.
This is one of the groundbreaking things about the Jupiter, which is hence the name Jupiter. It's the behavior modeling and the acoustic modeling. The keyboard can be set up to find all the nuances from an acoustic instrument, and it actually follows the way you play. For instance, if I've got an acoustic trumpet here. As you know, with a trumpet, if you were to actually do a trill on the valves, your fingers don't go all the way down. And on a normal keyboard, if I was to continue doing a trill, it would just speed up like this. But this will actually mimic with the half valves. And I can set up all the controllers to have even more control. You can hear it running through the valves. I can use D-beam to add rasp. And also, my switches, staccato, and then you can put them all together. It's been able to play the acoustic instruments as closely to the actual true instrument as you can.
Ah, I see. Have you got any other examples of that we could just... I remember hearing a guitar and thinking, oh, that's actually pretty special.
Yeah, the guitars are great, actually. And the reason for that is another part of the behaviour modelling is because you can actually add strum and the speed of strum to an instrument. So, yeah, I've got a flamenco guitar here, which also have different behaviour modellings added to and I can assign them to any of the controller pedals. So you can hear I've got a strum on there, but I can also add the strum to single notes by hitting the button, or harmonics. And there's various others. In fact, all the acoustic tones on the Jupiter 50 have various different behaviour modellings, and there's 117 that you can choose from with all different structures, from the pianos, from the tone organs, and everything basically.
So that was some acoustic stuff. What about some more sort of traditional synthesizer type action?
Yeah, sure. You've got 1900 synth tones built into the keyboard to start with, to start layering. So I'll just basically I'll run you through a couple. This is great, nice bass sounds, and also using the D-beam you can get some nice effects running through it as well. So. Switch the D-beam on. Oh, this is a great one. Hang on, Club Stack.
So it sounds like there's quite a lot of effects and arpeggios going there. I mean, that seems to be quite a lot of the sound. I mean, we're not talking kind of real nitty-gritty modular level synth.
No,
action,
you're right. I mean, I just used a layered sound, and I did use arpeggiators as well, so I can switch off the arpeggios. So that's, and then what I've got is effects running through it as well. I've got up to 4 multi-effects that I can run through each live set, which is a group of 4 sounds.
So perhaps we can take a look at just the basic architecture of a synth, because I mean, we get down to the sort of nitty-gritty of it and just see what's actually there at a sort of, I guess, oscillator level.
Oh, okay, right. There's 2 ways of doing this. I've got, as you know, the JP80 has a touch screen.
Yeah.
This one doesn't have a touch screen. So I'm running around the screen. I can do everything that I can do on the JP80, but the nice thing is, because you've got an iPhone app, an iPad app for it, I can actually do everything in colour. But if I wanted to do it from the keyboard, I can just as easily do it. I have various different waveforms on board: sawtooth, square, pulse wave, triangular, sine wave, noise, and supersaw. And each one of those has 3 different variations as well. But you've also got plenty of filters on board as well. In fact, the new version 2 software on the JP80 comes as standard on the JP50.
Oh, that's got separate filter types, right?
That's right. You've got the low pass filter 1 is the one from the JP80, and now what's added to it. This, bearing in mind, this is analog modelling. So you've got low pass filter 2 now as well, which is the low pass filter from the Jupiter 8. Different characteristics of sounds, and also we've got low pass filter 3, which is modelled on Moog synthesizers. I find great at the top end, a little bit weaker at the bottom end, and then with the last one, the low pass filter 4, is modelled on the sequential circuits, Prophet 5, which I tend to find has a much better bottom end than the top end. So you can start using these filters to create the tones that you want and the sort of depth that you want, for whether it be lower, higher.
So you mentioned iPad. Literally, have we just got it plugged in to the USB and directly in, so it connects via the MIDI, the camera connection?
Yeah, it connects with a camera connection direct into the. I've got it taped down here. So, for instance, with the iPad app, which is a free app, it now lets me see everything that's going on as far as the editing of tones that are on the keyboard, or even creating my own. And you can just pick your different waveforms. I can see all three partials or oscillators at the same time for each individual tone.
So it gives us a better overview of what's going on. So I mean, we're looking at this now. I mean, I'm sensing that, you know, we're not talking about a whole lot of synthesis capabilities. We've got oscillator, filter, amplitude and pitch envelope, and maybe a couple of LFOs. I mean, we're not talking about like really deep synthesis here, are we?
No, it's a bit deeper than that though, because there are variations on each one, and bearing in mind I can run 18 oscillators on this and 30 oscillators on the Jupiter 80. But this is analog modeling. This is not like taking a Jupiter 8, exact thing. It's about modeling on the original tones or creating tones, which is an ability you don't normally have on a performance synth to do all of this.
So it's very much a performance-orientated tool then. It's not, you know, I think what's happening is a lot of people are expecting it to be the full-on kind of sound sculpting almost, you know, because it's not an inconsiderable amount of money to spend on any kind of instrument. So, but just to reiterate that.
Okay. One of the backgrounds I come from is as an MD, which is about recreating the music from an artist for live work. And in the past, when I've had to put the bands together and recreate the songs that are on the albums, I've literally had to go round the shops trying each different keyboard out to get close to the sound that's actually on that record to produce it for a live show. I haven't had the control before where I've got a performance synth that all I have to do is get close to that sound, you know, and then tweak it. I haven't had that the amount of control that I've got with the tone editor on this. It's not a matter of being identical, 100% identical to the original keyboard, but what I'm trying to do is work from a keyboard that already gives me a massive amount of instruments anyway, but the ability to tweak those to the ones that are on the record, you know. So it's actually a time saver as well for me, because I haven't had to go to every different shop and go, oh, that's the keyboard that came from. Oh, that's the keyboard that came from. I just need to get close. And yeah, it's not a JP8 with all the sliders running in model, you know, in pure analog. It's analog modeling. So it does have a hell of a lot of control, but at the same time, I do, you know, it's about getting close enough for me to the original sound, and this keyboard does actually do that, you know. So
we've talked a lot about kind of performance. Mm-hmm. What about in terms of hooking up with your writing system, you know, for creating and studio side of things?
Okay, well, on board the keyboard you've got a song player which plays back WAV, MP3 and AF files, and also has Veriphrase built into it. It's not got a sequencer built into it, but the keyboard actually comes with Cakewalk Sonar X1LE. You've also got, if I hit the menu button here, active controller technology, and what that does, along with the free version of Sonar that you get for your PC, it turns this keyboard into a controller for the DAW system. Right, so it integrates it. As long as you're not working on a Mac, of course. No, yeah, this is for PC base. But basically what this does, you get the tape transport will become your tape transport for your recorder. And you can also use the part balances, etc., for controlling various aspects of the recording system. You can set it up to the way you want it, basically. So just to double, it's got a built-in MIDI interface over USB, but not audio, right? Not audio. You do have audio input. So what you can do is you can connect a guitar, microphone, whatever, and you could actually record directly onto the keyboard. Either what you're playing or what you're playing and a guitarist, vocalist, etc. All right, so the USB doodah here, it records onto that, right? Yeah, everything goes direct onto USB and it stores it. So you can store all your songs, etc., and all your sound data, etc., to this USB. And then this USB at the back I'm using for the controller for the iPad. If you were using this with another DAW system, for instance, the keyboard, it comes automatically set up. So your upper live set, which is 4 sounds stacked, and your solo, that's a single sound, mono or polyphonic, and your lower tone stroke percussion sound is also can be monophonic, polyphonic. They automatically are assigned a different MIDI channel. So you get 3-part multi-timbrality. 3-part multi-timbrality, but up to 6 sounds at a time that can be stacked.
Okay, so I can see how that's going to be quite powerful in that situation. I'm not totally convinced about the synthesis potential. I think you're going to have to sell it a bit harder to me.
Well, the one thing I can say is that you can edit every single synth tone totally. You know, you can really pull it apart. So if you found the basic sound that you like to start with, you can change it. And not forgetting the fact that it's about the layering of sounds on this keyboard. It's about a performance keyboard that does an awful lot more than just playing acoustic tone. Look, if I wanted to make up a live set, for instance, look, I've got this one here. I'm going to create. This is just the live set for 4 sounds, and at the moment I've got 4 supernatural synth tones. So I've got. Sounds pretty synthy to me. But anyway, if I add another part, because there's only 3 parts played there, I can also mix these while I'm playing live. So what I'm going to do is I've got my second part, which is the volume here. I can scroll through the 1900 synth tones. Can you see the potential I've got to recreate a ton of different synth tones?
Yeah, and I must admit, I noticed that when you brought that second tone in, that it brought out a lot more effects. So there's obviously some fancy routing going on with that as well.
You have to spend a bit of time with this keyboard, because when you've got the 1900 different tones, there's about 500 different synth solo sounds that are on board. And not just to mention the fact that your live sets, which is a group of 4 sounds, you've got over I think it's 2,560 that you can have on the keyboard that can all be different layerings of different synth tones. And not just that, you can layer these synth tones with acoustic tones again.
Okay, I'll grant you that does kind of put it into perspective a little bit more. Actually, out of interest, what's the editing capability like on the acoustic sounds? You know, what can you do with those?
Well, the acoustic sound, you can't edit the acoustic sounds at all, but what you can do is you can change the different behavior modeling again, and the different nuances of the instruments. For instance, if you're on the grand piano, you can decide how heavy you want the piano, the pedal action.
And can you? I mean, obviously you can affect the ambience and stuff around those. Can you filter those sounds?
You can actually use the resonance cut off, for instance, if I put it on. You know, I've got the oboe, for instance. I can do resonance and cut off. So I have got certain control.
Oh, so that's like a global filter that's
exactly that's working off that live set. I'll show, the marimba is a great one to show. Another one, behavior modeling, because just on the mod wheel alone, I have things like rolls, which is great for timpani as well. Bearing in mind, the buttons on the front here, the color-coded ones, are also really great, because if I want to find a sound, there's so many sounds, up to, as I said, 2,500 live sets, and some of those could just be an individual sound. If I wanted to find all the pianos,
right,
I just double-click on the piano, and can you see the list that I've got? And these are all the piano-based ones. Same with electric. So I can scroll through all the different. And anyone I want to find, now you need that, because when you've got 500 synth tones, synthesizer leads sounds, you know, you need a way of getting through.
Okay, now I'm going to have to give you a hard time at one thing. Obviously, with all of these expressive sounds, it doesn't have aftertouch, right?
No, it doesn't. But you've got 2 controllers on the back for your pedals, so you can do controller pedals. In fact, I've assigned one of them at the moment to just move up individual sounds. But I could have assigned those 2 there. I've got another 2 here, which can be used as controllers. I've got 2 controller switches here, and I've got my D-beam. And if I wanted to have aftertouch, the JP80 does have aftertouch built into it. The JP50 doesn't. But if I want it, all I do is assign it to wherever area I want. So for instance, shift and assignable. And basically what I'll do is just find it. There's the aftertouch. And it's not pressing down on a keyboard, but it is using I can use it, probably the easiest way of using it is to use another controller here and have it on the foot pedal rather than having it, because obviously if you're going to be playing both hands, it's going to be a bit hard to do that. So yeah, it's it doesn't have aftertouch built into it, but the fact is that you can still get to where you want to get to, basically, which is the whole idea of the whole keyboard, is eventually getting to whichever area that you need to do, whether it's copying someone else's sound from another keyboard, or just basically setting it up in the way that's just right for you. It's different for everybody. So.
Okay, so I think Gareth has answered some of my questions pretty honestly there, and I appreciate that. So now you get to play your demo. So
okay, right.
As a reward, if you like.
I've got my USB, and
so that's got an audio track in it, right?
That's got hundreds of audio tracks on it, but it depends on the memory of your USB, which is what you can do. So I'm just going to scroll through to a little demo I've written for this keyboard. And done it in the Starsky and Hutch kind of vein.